Hello everyone, this is Fieldmaster Victor Neustroyev. Thank you for coming to our webinar today. Today we are going to talk about fortresses. So the topic is fortress. I'm sure that many of you know what fortress is. However, first of all, we are going to find a description of this chess term. So please let me know first if the video and audio quality is good, and second, what in your opinion a fortress is. Okay, thank you, John, for confirming. Okay, I'm doing this stream on several platforms as usual, and later you will be able to watch the recording. So yeah, looks like everything is working. Thank you guys for joining today. So okay, so John thinks that this is a defensible formation in the game, which does make sense. Oh, so some people, for example, DJ Ignatin, never heard of the fortress. Okay, well, that's okay, because we are here to learn more about chess, to learn, to improve our skills as well. So what a fortress is? Fortress is such a setup of pieces and pawns where a player who plays for a win cannot progress. This is a fortress. And usually fortress lead to a draw. Well, you may say that, well, I played chess for, let's say, 5 years and I never had a fortress. Why do I need to learn it? And a good example is taken from the game between Anish Giri and Samuel Shankland. So Shankland, if I'm not mistaken, was number 5, well, was number 4 American Grandmaster. And he was playing against Anish Giri in Chess Olympiad. And looks like Sam didn't know about fortresses. Well, of course he knew, but he didn't know that a fortress may happen in his game. So in his opinion, he was completely losing. So let's look at this game fragment. Bishop g5, knight takes h3, bishop e3. The knight is simply cut off. The rest is just to capture this knight with the king, and this is the game. I mean, the game is over. King d6, king f5, king d5, b6. And this is where Sam resigned. What do you think? What could Sam do instead of resigning? By the first glance, it's obvious. So the bishop comes to c5, the bishop, well, first of all, the king comes to g4, and then the bishop comes to c5. So the bishop is protected, the knight is trapped. White has a pawn, at least one pawn, but actually two pawns, and the bishop. So they definitely win, right? No. What do you think Black could do in this position instead of resigning? So who can tell me? Knight g5. Well, how does knight g5 work? Knight g5, king takes g5. I think it should be fine. Well, this is definitely not the plan. Take the b4 pawn. You mean this? Well, the b6. Well, you cannot take the b6 pawn. It's always protected. And you cannot distract the bishop by moving the knight because the king may take. What else? Attacking white pawns with the king? Come on, guys. No. Well, king f4. Paulina, what king f4 means? Goal is to try and keep your king around your pawn like c6 and a6. Now, the goal here is to build a fortress, such a position where white won't be able to progress. It's obvious that this king, that this knight on h3 is absolutely trapped. It dies, so we cannot save it. We cannot capture these pawns. So let's build such a position which won't allow white to capture the pawn on b7. And yes, such a position exists. The king should be either here or there. That's why king d6, king g4, king d7. Here, king c8, and that's it. For example. So ideally, we want to move the king there. So if you see, let's say king g4, king b8, this, and then we just make these two moves. So this. If the king comes closer, this is a stalemate. If the bishop instead checks here, it's a stalemate too. Let's say king d7, it's a stalemate. Let's say here after king c8, white plays this move in order to stop this this king coming to a8. It's still a draw. Here, 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 here. And what now? They may play this move, but it doesn't help. The king goes to d7 then. Here, 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 stalemate, right? So there are always squares available. Let's say in this position bishop c7, here, 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 and every time the white king comes closer, this king is stalemate. So there is no way to progress for white. And because of that fortress, it was really easy to make a draw. This is what Anish Giri definitely understood at that moment. Well, you can ask me why. Well, I think it's because of a better chess education that Anish Giri was provided. Anish Giri, so he was studying chess in St. Petersburg because he was born in Russia. Yeah, he was born in Russia, that's true. So, well, his father, I think his mom is Russian and his father is not. He is from Nepal. However, Netherlands offered some help, some promotion to Anish Giri. That's why Anish represents Netherlands since then. And he did really well, so he became one of the top grandmasters in the world. As for Sam Shankland, well, I think he is just a good American grandmaster. Well, one of the best. And if, for example, well, he is also a good coach, I think. Most people enjoy his courses on Chessable. This is what I've heard from Chessable staff. They say that Sam Shankland is doing really well on Chessable because people like his courses. So, but Sam didn't know everything. Maybe now he learned it. But you see, how is it possible for a grandmaster, for a top grandmaster, being number 4 in the American Olympic team, to play, to not find this simple fortress? Well, would I find it? I don't know. But at least this position would seem to be a bit suspicious for me. And I would keep playing, and maybe later I would notice a fortress here. Because it really looks suspicious. If, let's say, we move the pieces a few squares up, the king would have more squares to move and no fortress can be played. So that's the reason why you should learn fortresses. Okay, anyway, let's continue. Let's continue with this next example. What can you say about this position? It's black to move, but is black winning or not? Who can tell me? Queen versus bishop and pawn. Well, by the first glance, it seems to be completely winning. But can you suggest a winning plan? Question. Well, let's go back to the previous example. How to find this? First of all, well, let's say where are we? Okay, we are in this position. How to find the king on e8? So, well, the knight is lost, and white has to capture this knight. They cannot progress if they do not take the knight, because if the bishop moves, the knight can always escape, and this is a draw. So the white plan is to capture the knight. Why the king should go to a8? On a8, the king has stalemate opportunities. So stalemating opportunities, and the every time the white king goes here, it is a stalemate, and you can base your fortress idea on this stalemate. How to find stalemate? Well, you should do more puzzles devoted to stalemating positions. Stalemate happens. Moreover, some of tactical ideas that don't obligatorily lead to a stalemate are based on stalemate. Because let's say you apply tactical strike, you sacrifice the rook, and if your opponent takes it, it's a stalemate. For example, this is what I saw at Moscow Open in 2018. Well, I was playing a game, and Volodar Murzin was playing the game. Well, Volodar Murzin is a Russian prodigy. He was playing a game near me, and I mean on the next board. So, and he was completely losing the end game. However, he found a really nice tactical strike. He sacrificed the rook, and if white takes it, there is a stalemate. If white doesn't take it, then black improves their position and fights for the draw. So that's why learn about stalemating. I have a really nice course about stalemating. I had it on Skillshare, but Skillshare no longer allows me to publish any chess related courses. So maybe I'll publish this course on my website. Okay, so just visualization. So try to picture the position where you see your opponent has no winning plans and cannot progress. This is what I mean. Okay, now the second one, this. Why black to move in this position, and what is your decision? Attacking white pawns with the king. Ah, no, it was a previous comment. Okay. So waiting for your suggestion, guys. Let me check. Okay. So yeah, Twitch. Well, this looks like a draw actually. Yes, it does. Perumal suggests to play queen f4, which does make sense too, or queen e1, or queen to h1. Oh, by the way, by the end of the webinar, I will repeat how to build, what are the main principles of building the fortress. So watch this webinar to the very end. Okay, so queen f4, queen h1, let's check these options. So let's say, no, queen f4 was played in the game, queen h1. What about this move? How does this move allow us to progress? Well, let's say bishop e3 or bishop f2, which I like most. Queen h4, for example. King g2. The queen is hanging, so there is no way to play this move. This. Okay, bishop goes back to a7. If you repeat, I move back. If you do this, I deliver a check and then move it back. So let's go back to the original position. Well, queen e1 is the same, bishop f2 with a temper. There is no way to progress on the other flank, because once the bishop goes to f2, this square is always under the control of the white pieces and nothing can be done. Okay, so that means that the king should enter the white's camp here, but let's say queen f4. King g2, king goes there, bishop f2, king goes back, bishop a7. If let's say here queen d2 check, king goes here, this, bishop f2, queen h1, check, king goes here, and bishop f2. So that means that once this check is delivered, the queen is under attack, and bishop a7 or bishop a3 will be played then. For example, if queen g5, okay, we can play king h2. There is no way to progress. Check, go back. So I always have moves with my king or bishop, and there is no way to progress. So this is actually a draw, a complete draw. This is a fortress. So this is how this is a drawing position. By the first glance, it seems to be winning, but no, it's not. The third example already. What do you think? Is white losing or not? Because the black is about to promote the pawn. This is a more complicated one, so I give you some more time to think of how white can draw the game, if they can, of course. So there is no way of taking this pawn. There is a bishop guarding it. F takes g6, f takes g6, probably. But this king has too many squares, and white has too many pieces to move, so stalemate is not possible. Is there a way to stop this pawn by doing by playing with the knight? Well, probably you may suggest something like that. Bishop d6. Okay, king takes, knight f6, h2, this, check, king goes, let's say, there, knight g3, stops, or maybe knight f2, bishop goes there, here, h1, knight has to be sacrificed, king goes there, but king f5, and this pawn is lost, after which the black pawn is promoted. Well, let's say king h6, we just simply play with the bishop. Well, not to g2, but to, let's say, here. The king moves away, we take and then promote. That's it. So bishop d6 idea, and then moving the knight in order to stop the pawn doesn't work. Like that. Or like that. What else? Is there anything else you can suggest? So guys, I'm waiting for your comments. Okay, Paulina suggests f6. Interesting. Can you please explain the setup which allows you to get a fortress after f6? How pieces are located? So move by move, assuming that black is going to promote their pawn and play something with the queen. So John suggests f6 and repeat with the king to g7. Okay, let's try it. Let's try it. I'll show you. So f6, this, this queen, king g7. What's then? Now our task is to bring the king. King goes there. So if king f7, it's simply this move. So black plan is to go there, bring the queen, and take on g5, after which this pawn can be promoted. So knight f8, how does knight f8? Well, yeah, let's say, I don't know, this move. So, but the knight has to go back always. King f5. Let's say bishop goes here. King finally, well, finally this is an idea. So probably bishop c1. Well, it's interesting, but this bishop can be the object of the attack. Let's say this move. The bishop goes here. So this move, the bishop goes here, this. No, this is just a repetition. Okay, so I played this move. I'm taking g5 and also taking the control over the bishop. So bishop goes here in order to protect. Okay, it seems to me that I should make such a setup which allows me to locate my queen properly and attack this square. Okay, so maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe instead of doing, instead of letting playing this move, let's say bishop goes to a3 right away. King e5. Maybe not bishop a3. Let's say bishop b4 in order to play this move. But then queen c1. And there is no way to defend the pawn. And doing something like that is likely to lose. Why? Well, why? This is okay. No, this is not a good move. So king e5 check, and if they take on g6, it's a winning position. We take here, then we take there, and then there. So, for example, here. Take. So if this move, it's this. And it should be winning. Sorry, no, it's not. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so let me try in a different way. King here. I want to keep this pawn defended. They can play knight f8. Okay, fine. Okay, then king here. Bishop goes there. Queen goes to... Queen goes here. They move the bishop there to play this move. then I play that. Now, if yeah, so and then my plan is to go with 2f5 and capture here because the bishop cannot find a square to protect the pawn on g5. And if I do this, I simply win because I can promote the g pawn. So their task is to maybe this is their only chance. But I think it should be winning. So let's say let's say this move. And if this move is played, then I do queen d3 and take it. Yeah, this is definitely winning with no chances. So king g7, then I play bishop takes f7. Well, yeah, bishop takes f7. Then I play king f5 move. So g6 doesn't work because I can check and take this pawn. Well, it is winning. So because otherwise I play this and move my king further. Okay, fine. So it is winning. Looks like this setup doesn't work because I can capture the pawn on g5. That's why, first of all, you have to remove your bishop to a better spot. The bishop comes to h6. Now g5 cannot be taken, and the bishop is protected too. There is also no this move because of the king's position. If this move was possible, then black would be able to chase the white king away. But here the king goes to g7 and there is no way to progress. White always has moves that doesn't affect the position, so it's either king moves or knight moves. Well, the knight is required to stay on h7 in order to protect on g7 if the queen does the attack. But if the queen does attack, the queen has to go somewhere away from the back rank, which means that now the king can move. And this is a fortress. So, am I explaining it so you understand it? Because it's a bit complicated this time. Okay, hope it was clear. So the task was just to find such a setup. How to imagine it? Well, it's mainly based on your ability to visualize the position. So if you can visualize such a position where your opponent cannot progress, well, then you did well and you found a fortress. The rest is just to initiate it. Okay, so let's talk about this example, the next one. This is where I want to give you some time to think. Well, looks like these pieces are a bit passive. The rooks are about to be exchanged, and it's black to move. What do you think? What's the best way for black to draw the game? Okay, so while you're thinking, just excuse me for 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. So, what are your suggestions here? So, John, this is what exactly I was talking about. So we sacrifice, in the previous position, we sacrifice the queen for the pawn on g5 and then push the g6 pawn forward. Here, so rook takes a4 and knight c5 with the pawn blockade on dark square. So this time you are absolutely correct. It should be a pawn blockade. That's right. So, well, you may take on the a4, but I think it's better to play this move right away, because these rooks are exchanged anyway. So, for example, now what? Well, in the game they took on a7, but let's decide if they take d takes e5. So another thing I want you to understand, if this happens, this is a complete draw because of the bishops of the opposite color. There is no way to progress. It's also a fortress, but it is a draw because of the bishops of opposite color too. So knight c5, let's say b takes c5, d takes c5. The rook cannot move to the b file, so there is no way to avoid the exchange. That's why white may exchange. And then they cannot progress. So white is trying to activate the king, but even if they move the king to a6, nothing really happens. If they sacrifice on c5, nothing happens again. Just no way to progress for white. So let's go back. In the game, it was this move played. King a7 and b takes c5 was played now, but it didn't change anything. And this is how a fortress was achieved. This is where both players agreed to a draw, understanding that white has an extra piece, but nothing, no active plan to play for a win. So sometimes a fortress can be defeated with a piece sacrifice for a few pawns in order to pass the game into the pawn in game with an extra pawn. But here black has a pawn. Black has extra pawns. So even if the bishop is sacrificed, it's still a draw. Okay, now maybe the most interesting example. Well, you may say that fortress is a rare option, but no, it happens in the game. And fortress is not about just a position where your task is to get a stalemate, or is about endgames. Fortress is also about some middle game positions. Your task is just to find such a setup which doesn't allow your opponent to progress, in case if you are playing for a draw and he is playing for a win. Well, this position seems to be quite dangerous for black. Well, they are up the exchange, but white pieces are active and they really have a strong attack. So white continued with this move. Rook takes f7 and bishop takes f6. Well, the idea of this move is that now rook g7 is a threat. If, for example, g5, queen comes here with a mate. Queen f7 is a mate. So if, for example, the queen takes, then here first bishop takes f7, and if the king takes, it's just rook f3. White is completely winning here with extra material. If the queen takes, then queen takes here check, then queen takes a6, and the queen controls the f1 square, so there is no back rank made. That's why black is in a tough situation after bishop takes f6. Which move would you recommend them to play? Who can tell me? So, what are your suggestions, guys? So, I'm checking your chat here. Bishop e6. Bishop e6. So, bishop f5. Well, the point of bishop f5. Well, this move does make sense, of course. Well, let's first check whether bishop f5 works or not. Well, I think it doesn't, because rook g7 is the main threat and you didn't stop it. And if you move the king here, then it's a discovered attack. If you move the king here, it's still worse. After that, they capture here. Maybe they play something else. For example, king e8, 6, or just deliver another check. And then maybe continue with this move. So take, here, check, here. Wanted to take this rook, but now I don't see it works. So rook f7 just in this position. Rook f7. Take. Queen a6. So yeah. So bishop f5 blunders rook g7, after which the position is completely losing. But bishop e6, and now rook g7 is not a threat because rook takes g7. This rook is no longer pinned. So white continued with rook d3, queen c7, and they played rook d8. What do you think black should choose? They have two options. They can block with the rook or they can sacrifice the queen. What would you suggest? Okay, so yeah, you need time to calculate and decide whether a queen sacrifice works or rook f8. It was Anatoly Karpov playing with black pieces. So, okay, Brian thinks a queen sacrifice works. For black now. Yeah, rook e6 for black now. Yeah, rook e6, or I mean, bishop e6 is definitely a mistake. But instead of this move, it is also possible to continue with rook f8 first, king f8, and bishop e5, with the idea of moving the queen away. So bishop f5, if queen takes e5, it's queen f2 check, and then the rook is lost. So there is no back rank mate. Let's say queen e1 is this check is delivered. Bishop f1, a4 to ruin it, because white is a pawn up, so b takes a4. Well, if this move, just the a2 pawn is lost immediately. So b takes a4, bishop c4, king g1, bishop f1, queen. Well, and this endgame is likely to be drawing. Well, if there were 3 pawns, then I would say white has really. If there were 3 pawns, then I would say white has really good chances to play for a win. But with 2 playing for a win in this position, and who knows if black playing for a win in this position, and who knows if black makes a mistake, they may lose. Rook f8 is possible, but requires accurate play from black in the queen endgame. That's why Anatoly Karpov calculated queen d8 line and played this move. So what now? Everything is hanging. If, let's say, you do this, they just play h3, and you don't have enough material. So it's queen and bishop. Well, if the bishops are exchanged, it's queen and the bishop versus 2 rooks, which is completely winning for white. Maybe rook d6, doing this. But, well, bishop e6, rook takes e6, h3, and no checkmate. It's still 2 pieces, queen and bishop versus 2 rooks. What do you think is the best move for black in this position? Yeah, something terrible happens with Twitch. Don't understand why. Because everything is working on my own, I mean on my end, and So this stream should be going smoothly. I have a very good internet. Maybe it's something on the Twitch end. Okay. Anyway, because no other stream was interrupted. So Black has to take a tough decision, which I'm sure Anatoly Karpov had in mind before he decided to sacrifice the queen. What do you think? What did he have in mind here? Okay, rook c6. Well, rook c6 h. Bishop c4 by Brian. Yes, that's right, actually. Bishop c4. Bishop takes c4. And what now? Well, if the queen takes, covering the f1 square, because you see in this position, black wants to deliver a checkmate, but now it's not possible. There is a bishop. So bishop, if pawn takes, it's a mate. If queen takes, the queen is covering and also pinning. But then this move equalizes the position. So that's why h3, to not blunder a mate. The bishop goes somewhere else. And a4, b takes a4. Well, playing b4 would be too risky. This pawn would be immobilized, and if a2 is lost, then the a pawn provides black with some advantage. So take. Rook d6, bishop a5. And in this position, black could play for a win. But I think they already wanted a draw from this position, having in mind that previously in the game they were almost losing. And black would better play this move. For example, if this, then rook goes here and g2 is still vulnerable. If, let's say, check, king h7, queen e4 back, rook g6, the pawn is still hanging. King g1, attacking both pieces. But, well, you can actually take with... No, you cannot, it's pinned. You can move this and then take on g2 with the bishop, for example. It's still good for... well, even if the queen goes somewhere to f3, this move is still good, because after that, it's this. So rook f2 could provide black with some winning chances, but they play rook d f6. Bishop a1. So now I want you to think and tell me what black should do if they want to play for a draw. Which setup of their pieces they should initiate if they want to draw the game. White has two extra pawns, and these are passed pawns on the a file. So, how to deal with it? Just imagine how your pieces should be located if you want to stop any progress from white. So bishop a6. Well, maybe bishop a6. But I'm asking about this setup. Okay, so I see there are some problems with the internet connection on my end too. So that was the reason that Twitch died. Okay, rook f5 targets the queen and a4 pawn. Well, you definitely... you mean rook f4 targets the queen? Okay, yeah, it's possible, but this is not the setup. So bishop should be on d5, right? Somehow it should be on d5. At the same time, the bishop should be protected with the rook on g6 or g5. So one rook should be there. The other rook should be on the back rank, taking a8 square under its control. And the king may be on h7 or on h8 or on g8. So it's more about these pieces. And this is exactly what Karpov initiated. He found this setup, rook g6. So bishop g3 covering the g2, rook g5. Now bishop goes to d5 and that's it. So there is no pin. This rook can move. And after rook f8 there are no checks to the king. And this pawn is always stopped because we have two defenders. And another important thing is that while the rook is on the g file, there is no way to get this set up. So queen c2, h5 was played with the idea of doing h4. a5, and the game ended in a draw. So let's say if black continued with this move, then it's this, take, take, king takes, and then maybe rook f4 and rook a4 in order to stop everything. So it's gonna be a draw because the black rook has to be tied down to the a file. But if, let's say, instead of doing a5 they played h4, which in my opinion is better, then rook g4 and then a5. Rook here stops it. a6, and well, if you take, it's a check. So just do this, pressuring here. And a7 no longer works. You just take on g3 and you can always sacrifice the bishop for that pawn. So queen c5, bishop a8, they do this, but you just move the king. And here with two rooks, you are able to stop the pawn. So let's say the queen moves somewhere, but keeps the protection of the pawn. So let's say here, just this move. You take this and this. And then you bring the rook back and also capture here. So these two rooks are really are really good when it comes to playing against passed pawns, or when this rook has to support their passed pawns, so the black passed pawns. Here, well, it's completely drawing. So that was the setup which didn't allow white to progress. And if white tried to progress with a5 right away, they would be in a danger after h4. And if they played h4 themselves, that would allow us to double and pressure the g2 as well as g3 one more time. So the white's task was just to find this, the black's task was just to find this setup. So you see, it happens very often. Well, not very often, but it happens from time to time, to be honest. And you shouldn't forget about this drawing tool, because it may happen anytime, especially in the end games. Okay, so I wanted to tell you about what principles to follow to build a fortress. But before doing it, let's make a minute of a self-promotion. Okay. So, you know, it's Black Friday, and well, I also announced Black Friday on my website. So this is a chance for you. At, well, I offer a lot actually. So, and there is also well, I'll show you. So I have the links here. So let me show you. So this is well, all of my courses can be purchased with a 50% discount. I'm going to copy this link to you. And another thing is that as for coaching, okay, so you can also get a discount on my 3 months training program or my 6 months training program. So what it is? It is a training program. Okay, so it doesn't. There is no example, but uh, this is a document with a list of what you should do in order to get better at chess right now, week by week. It is based on your game analysis. So, for example, I recently did a plan for Brian. Well, it's only 6 weeks plan, so it's not 3 months. 3 months is about 12 weeks. So it's just a half of this period because we do individual classes with Brian. And in my opinion, this is what exactly Brian started to study, and that helped him to improve, well, at least for maybe 50 or 100 points on chess.com. But rating is not so important for me as the quality of his games. So this thing helps. So uh, well, when I was trying to become a FIDE master, I also created such a training plan for me. It was 6 month training plan, and I was also talking to some of my friends who are stronger than me while I was demonstrating my games and was asking them what would they recommend and so on. So, and this is how this idea of making a training plan, which I can just follow step by step, came to my mind, and that's why I decided to create such a program. So you can get it until Monday with, okay, with a discount for $51.75. Okay, as for these bundles, I also offer a discount for them, but only for new students. So you can also message me at tricksofchess@gmail.com. Okay, so let me send you the links, and then we will sum everything up, and I'll tell you about these basic principles that you should follow when your task is to build a fortress. Okay, so this is the link. Okay, so can I? Okay, yes, it works. I think it works. Uh, okay, fine. So, well, what else about the principles? Okay, so, well, there are some characteristics that you should remember when it, and this is how you decide whether a fortress is possible or not in your game. So first of all, fewer pieces on the board, and in that case, if you exchange more pieces, it's likely to be a draw. Second, there is a pawn barrier which stops the enemy bishops, for example, or stops the enemy king entering your camp. Also, if you see any stalemating motives or stalemating tactical ideas, you may base your fortress on it, like it was in the game of Sam Shankland. So if you, for example, find the way how to hide your king with the pawns and none of the enemy pieces can attack it, it's likely to be a stalemate once he captures all your other pieces. Another very important feature is the control over the invasion squares. So you shouldn't let your opponent invade into your camp. And once you control it, like for example, it was in this position when you see we control any invading any squares where the enemy pieces can invade, so there is no chance. We control everything. It's likely to be a draw if you do this. So these 4 basic things that you should remember before building a fortress. So try to implement this idea in your games, and maybe that will save you half of a point when you are completely losing, which is really important, especially if you are fighting for a money prize or you are trying to get a norm of an international master or grandmaster. Who knows, maybe there are some future international masters or grandmasters among my viewers today. Okay, thank you for coming. Next weekend there will be a master class by FIDE master Pavel Martynov devoted to 10 most typical endgame plans. 10 most common endgame plans. I will announce it in the middle of the week, maybe on Wednesday. However, I still do the webinar on next Sunday. Not sure which topic exactly I'm going to cover, but I'm sure it will be something interesting. So Fortress wasn't covered by, well, I don't know how many YouTubers did cover this topic, but so I think this is a very important thing and many may forget about it. Any questions? So if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, fine. Fine. So no questions. Good. That's why let's meet next Sunday.